Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular board meeting of Vallecitos Water District on Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. Director Hernandez, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I'd be happy to. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim. And can we have a roll call, please?
Director Elthar?
Here.
Director Evans?
Here.
Director Hernandez?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Director Sonata?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. However, I would like that motion to include that we move item 2.2 at staff's request to closed session.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, and before we get to the water operations presentation, we do have a special guest stopping by tonight, Glenn Pruin, who was recently selected to be our next general manager, is in the audience with his wife. And Glenn, if you wanted to come up and maybe say hi and introduce your wife, that'd be great. And it's very timely because we have a lot of our employees in the audience tonight.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating. I didn't expect this many people to show up.
This is the first test.
Yeah, hopefully I'll do okay. So before I start, I would like to introduce my wife, Jean. So thank her for coming. And as you all know, sometimes this job can be very demanding, a lot of hours, and it's nice to have somebody at home keeping the fort running. And we have five boys between the two of us, so there's always a lot of work to be done around the house. So Jean, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. President Sanella and members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited about moving forward and becoming a part of the Vallecitos Water District. I have had the opportunity to work kind of side by side with the district for quite some time. When I was with Carlsbad, we worked collectively on the desal project that's been built now. I worked with Vallecitos on recycled water projects, and we had a relationship between Carlsbad and Vallecitos. I represented Carlsbad, and I currently represent Encinitas at the Encina Wastewater Authority, so I get the opportunity to work side by side with Vallecitos on our shared investment down at Encina Wastewater Authority. Vallecitos is a very well-respected organization, and I'm proud to have been selected as the general manager. And I want to build on that reputation of the district and take the district forward in its mission, and I look forward to doing that. And in addition to having worked side by side with Vallecitos, for the last 14 years, I have been a resident of San Marcos and a very satisfied Vallecitos Water District customer, which is great. Yes. And I recently had a customer service encounter with Vallecitos when we had a water main break in my neighborhood, and I'm glad to say the crews responded very quickly and got everything up and running very promptly and very professionally. So it was a really good experience. As good as losing your water for a couple hours can be, a good experience, it was a good experience. So with that, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Glenn, I just wanted to say too, thank you for coming out tonight, and me personally, really looking forward to getting started. And I also recognize that you're not on the clock right now, so don't feel any commitment to have to stick around. But I do appreciate you coming out, so thanks. Okay, now we'll get to the department presentations, water operations.
Hi, I'm Sean Askin. I am the Water Systems Operations Supervisor, and I would like to introduce the Water Operations staff. Cheryl Minchilli will be Riber will be be presenting for us. She has been with us for 13 years as of January. Richie is the Senior Water Systems Operator. He has been with us for 13 years as of May. Brandon Coleman, he's been with us 9 years as of this month. Wow. Joey Shore here has been with us since November, 11 years. He's been here 11 years. And then Toby has been with us 10 years as of August. Wow. So,
My
Cheryl,
experience.
go ahead and give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
I'm gonna learn how to do this right now. I think I just click on it, right? And it should advance. And so
There you go.
you just met all of us, but here we
There you
are.
go.
We took this the other day for you guys. So water operations, part of our responsibilities, and I think the biggest thing is to maintain a safe, reliable water supply. And we do that with diligence. We do that and I'll explain how we do that. We maintain a sufficient quantity of water in the system for the customers and we have to meet the fire flow ability whenever that happens, like the Cocos fire. We were good with that. We had plenty of water. We also maintain water quality for the state and federal regulations. And we maintain a lot of things. We maintain the pump stations, the pressure stations, the tanks, the reservoir sites, also the licensing to operate. We sample the water distribution system. The sample plan actually determines where we do the samples at. So we've done, our sample plan has been approved by the State Water Resources Control Board, and that is where we take our routine samples at. We also take samples after a main break, or a fire hydrant hit, or any kind of disruption in the service. We'll do a sample after that just to make sure that the water's good. We inspect all the tank sites weekly, and we inspect the Twin Oaks reservoirs daily, and we maintain all of our records on our inspections. We determine whether the tanks need to be treated, but that's with our water quality test. And then if it does need to be treated, we'll call Sean and we'll figure out what it's going to be. We'll do our math and we'll dose the tank at what we need it to be. SCADA, this is our computer system. It's called Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. This is the computers that sends us our alarms. We put in our set points so that we will get the alarm when it reaches its set point. This system automatically notifies the on-call operator whenever there's an alarm. 24 hours a day, I don't care if it's Christmas Day, I'll get called and I'll have to go out on the complaint. One of the things that our SCADA has done now saves us a lot in overtime because we can log onto our computer now and fix the problem mainly on the computer instead of having to come all the way in the district. And so it saves on overtime like crazy. Our SCADA upgrades are I can't even describe them. The SCADA does everything. It'll tell me if there's a too high of pressure. It'll tell me if a door is open. It'll tell me anything. We have thousands of alarms that are built in the system, and the system will call me and tell me. And if I miss the call will go right directly to my supervisor, and if he misses the call, it'll go right to the next one. So we've got backup in case something happens. We monitor weather conditions and current events, especially today with the Santa Anas. I'm the duty operator right now, so because of the Santa Ana conditions, I've just got every tank more full than we normally do, just in case there's something happens. So that's one of the precautions that we'll always take. Water purchasing. Okay, we calculate the amount of water that we need by the demand. Today there's a lot more demand than normal because of the weather. When it rains, if it rains for a month straight, we're going to have a hard time meeting our water purchase agreements because we're not going to be able to get rid of the water, but we do the best that we can. We look and see which areas need the water, and we have valving that we can put the water from one area to the other if we need to. So we're constantly calculating and figuring out where we need, and we look at the weather. We look at other things too. Cycle the water in the tanks every 24 hours to maintain. We're constantly doing that. We have one of our SCADA pages shows us a trend, and we can put it back for 32 days and see what the tanks have been doing. So it gives us a lot of information that we can go on. We consider the different sources. We've got the desal water now we consider. We also have Oliebenheim. Years ago we didn't have that connection, and now we're grateful that we have different sources that we can rely on. So we thank you for that. Tank facilities. We inspect the compounds, including fence lines for any signs of intrusion or vandalism. We inspect the drains, the overflows. We climb to the top of the tanks and we inspect the tops. We report any of the deficiencies to either the maintenance department or the construction department, wherever it needs to go. We're constantly on the eye for all those. On the pump station facilities, we also inspect those. We record all of our information, our pump hours. We look for leaks. We check for vibration or overheating of the pumps. If those are the pumps that are allowed to run during the day, we'll check those while they're running. Biggest thing that we have to worry about at the pump stations is SDG&E charging us if we run the pump stations in the wrong hours. So we have to do our calculations to make sure that the customers have enough water for the whole day, depending on how much water's in the tank, because we're not gonna run those pumps until 10 at night. So that's one of the big things that we do. The pressure station facilities, we also check those. Those are underground. We have procedures that we go through, confined space procedures, and we go down underground and we check for leaks. We check the gauges, the lights. We always check the flood switch. And we make sure that the alarm comes into the office so we know that these alarms are working. We vent the clay valve controls. The clay valves are the valves that automatically open when I send a set point on my iPad. I'll send the set point, it'll automatically open down the street. We check those. We check the antennas. We make sure everything's clean too. And we check the blow off adjustment. We always want to set the blow off. We want to engage the blow up to make sure that it works at the right pressure. So there'll be two of us that'll go out to do the inspection, and one of us will be watching, the other one will set it off so that we know that it works right. We do this every month. The regulatory sampling. All right, we take samples every week. The bacteriological samples that go to the lab, and we're required by the state and federal government to do this, and we're very diligent on our samples. We do trihalomethanes, which the guys just did today, and halocytic acids, our regular BAC-T samples. Now we have the more lead and copper sampling that we're doing because of the desal. We wanted to see the difference in our water from before we got the desal in and once we got the desal in. So we've been doing sampling for both so that we know what the water system's doing. We test for fluoride. One of the main ways to find out if the leak in the ground is groundwater or our water, we do a fluoride test, and we're able to do that with our equipment. The reporting. Some of these reports, here's a list of all of our reports, but a couple of these reports have to be into the State Water Control Board before 10 days of the month. So by the 10th of the month, we have to have these reports in. Everything's written down. Our reports from our chlorine residual, our distribution, nitrification monitoring, the monthly summaries, those all go to the state, and our quarterly disinfection byproduct reporting. We have a lot of reports that we do, and they all get sent to the state. We're very diligent about our reports. I don't think we've ever been late on a report yet, so we're good about that. Our whole crew has to be certified. In order to stand duty, we have to have a D3. A few of us have D5s, and we continue to get our education. It's been very important to our department. And the math is really important to us, so we've all been highly educated on how to do it all. We're pretty proud of that. Is that it? There we go. That's Ed, actually.
Ed,
I didn't want to say that, but that's Ed, actually.
Ed, what are you doing?
When we were cleaning your tank. But it's very important for us. Our main thing is to maintain the water quality. And you'll see us driving around to all the tank sites, and we're doing our little samples. We want to see what the water's doing. So we will adjust if we need to.
Well, thank you so much. I know Director Martin had a question
Yeah,
here.
a couple
Sure.
questions. Thank you. Great report. Thank you
Sure.
very much. Desal.
Yes.
Let me ask a question, things I don't know about it, that you certainly will. Are we obtaining desal water 24 hours a day? Or does it just come on part of the day during the pump cycle at night?
Well, that depends. Right now, we're not getting any desal at all because their plant is down for their monthly maintenance.
It's not pumped.
And it's not pumped in. We get that through one of our connections. So I'll order the water. I'm gonna order that water tonight because they said they're gonna be back online. So it depends on, we try to get as much as we can as operators. We know that we have to meet that purchase agreement. So we're gonna take as much water as we can through the desal connection. It's actually better quality water than we had before. Our water quality has gone up.
Well, that was the next question. So the desal you order the same as you order from Met or Liebenheim? Are you ordering a Liebenheim the same way?
Yes,
Because Liebenheim we're contracted for, desal we're contracted for.
Yes.
Met we're not.
right. So as operators, we're gonna look at the system and we're gonna try to get Liebenheim and desal water in first. We wanna try to meet that purchase agreement no matter what every month. As operators, we're gonna do that first. If I have to get water through Met, I will. During the day, I'm not allowed to get water from Olevenheim, so if I'm left where I'm short, I'll have to get water from Met just during the day while it's on peak hours. Otherwise, we're gonna be charged, I don't even know what we get charged if we pump out of the times.
Right.
Yeah,
And my question, you said you are noticing a difference
yes,
in the makeup of the water.
yes.
Can you give us a basic, what's the difference between Met, desal, and Olevenheim?
What I've noticed is our chlorine residual is a little bit higher, so is our pH.
From,
From the desal water versus the Met water. Maybe because it's a sooner connection, we're getting fresher water. The water age has a lot to do with it.
but they're putting that in at the plant in
Yes.
Carlsbad?
Yes.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, we've noticed a big difference. Our water quality has gone up. Our chlorine residuals have gone up, which is a good thing for us.
Director Hernandez.
Thank you.
A couple of things, the vibration that you were talking about, checking the vibration, do you do that both via the SCADA or actually on site?
We do that on site with the back of our hand.
Ah.
We'll touch the pump, feel the vibration, or feel the heat.
Mhm.
And if there's any discrepancy, we'll call the maintenance department.
And then you mentioned monitoring the weather.
Yes.
And how do you monitor the weather? I very recently just found out AccuWeather.com, you just throw the farmer's almanac out, for God's sake.
We use the National Weather Service. I think all of the other weather people get their information from the Weather Service, so we go right to the source.
Ah.
We have on all of our laptops, on all of our iPads, and on our computers, we have that as one of our favorites, and every one of us will look and see what the weather's doing before we go on duty. I wanted to know that the Santa Anas were coming so that I could bump up the system a little. I don't want to get caught with no water in the system and a fire breakout in the Santa Ana. So we're very diligent on looking at the weather.
Oh, good. And then my last question, I don't remember where I heard it from, but someone indicated, one of the districts indicated that they're using drones to look at their water tanks. Has that come up?
Yeah, we've discussed that. Yeah, we're looking into that.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. All right, thank you. That was all my questions.
Okay.
Director Ellis.
Yeah, I was wondering, what's the state board rating for treatment?
The state board, what?
The rating for the treatment?
The rating for, I'm
Our
not sure if I.
system,
Yeah,
it's a
Oh.
T0 system,
T3?
0.
Oh, 0.
And D5.
Really?
We're D5.
system, T0.
So even though you do some
It's only
chlorination?
considered secondary treatment,
Yeah.
so they don't consider any treatment facility here.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And one other thing, how often, or how long do you stand duty at a time?
1 week.
1 week? So you
1 week. We do
rotate.
it from a Thursday morning to a Thursday morning, and we all rotate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And mine isn't a technical question, it's more just a comment and a compliment. So the 6 of you run the entire department? And listening to Sean, it sounds like we have about 80 years of experience there, so that is really impressive. And I have to tell you, one of the most interesting things when I first got on the board, and it was also, had a great discussion with my father-in-law at the time, was that we didn't realize the water was circulating 24/7 in the tanks. So sometimes when I drive by, I'm amazed to know that someone is out there keeping that water going all the time, and that's one of the things I've learned with the district. You guys do a lot of so-called hidden accomplishments that none of us realize. So these reports are really wonderful, and I do hope someone gets a chance to listen to them besides us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheryl, before you sit down, thanks for the presentation. I love your passion. Are you going to be presenting tomorrow at the Water Academy?
I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna be helping Brandon in the lab up at Twin Oaks.
Okay, but you do a really good job at that too, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
I had kind of a weird question for you. I have to get back to one of our customers, actually. I was having a conversation recently about our underground tanks out in Twin Oaks.
Yes.
I was talking about the 40 million gallon tank that we have in particular, and how I had an opportunity to go and tour it when we had it down for maintenance and go to the bottom of it. And she asked a really interesting question I didn't know the answer to, so I'm hoping I can follow up with her if you can. She asked, how long does it take to fill it back up when from dead empty?
Oh,
Do we
wow.
know?
Well, it would depend on how fast you're filling it.
Just
I would have to
typically,
do the
yeah.
math.
But it'll take a couple days.
At least a couple days.
days,
Sure.
okay.
It's 60, well, it's a cubic foot per second, so it's a very large connection, but we really don't have enough pressure to push that much through it. So normally, 40 cubic feet per second is about as high as we can go with that.
So it would take a couple days.
Yeah, and, yeah, I think she was thinking maybe even a couple weeks, so
Oh,
you
no.
never know. So that's really good, so I'll get back to her, so, thank you so much.
Good question.
Yep, Director Martin.
What's our total capacity, and what does that mean as far as emergency happens, we're cut off from water, how much do we have? How many days supply at this time of year? I know it varies if you're having rain, but this time of year.
Right. Our total capacity by the is, I think, about 120 million gallons. And one of the shutdowns that we had, Richie and I were on duty, and we were in the office right before shutdown, and we were moving water as much as we could, pumping from here to there just to get it full. We had everything as full as we could, and we had about 117, I believe.
Okay.
So technically, we can only get about 117. We were within inches of spill everywhere, and we were really stressed about that. But this time of year, if it's Santa Ana's, we're gonna go through a whole lot more than if it's raining. So typically in the winter, we're gonna use a lot less than we do.
How much is that?
I would say my average in the summer, I'll go through 45 million gallons in a day, and in the winter, maybe 7. So that's a pretty big, that's about average, I think, that's about, in the winter when it's raining, we don't use hardly any. And in the summer, like I say, in the summer and during Santa Ana's, we'll go through 45 million easy in a day.
Thank you very much, great presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Thank
Good
you
night, guys.
for all you do.
We'll move on to public comments. Persons wishing to address a matter not on the agenda may be heard at this time. However, no action will be taken until the matter is placed on a future agenda in accordance with board policy. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. A requested speaker form is required to be submitted to the executive secretary prior to the start of the meeting, if possible. Public comments should start by stating your name, address, and topic, and the board is not permitted at this time to enter into dialogue with the speaker. I do have one speaker for this item tonight, and that's Mr. Hunsaker. And Mike, before you get started, I owe you an apology. You had a speaker slip mixed in with everybody else's speaker slip at the last meeting for one of our last items, and I didn't catch it until after you had left, so I apologize that you didn't get an opportunity to speak on that item.
No, I have no problems with that. I was a little annoyed at the time, but no, there's no damage done. I have one question and a greeting to the new GM. Question is, up in the Twin Oaks area, we have a lot of old piping. And in the old piping, we have a lot of copper and probably some lead. Do we do any sort of surveys as to whether or not some of these buildings are at risk of lead contamination and copper contamination? I do wish to congratulate the board on finding a GM with very impressive credentials. He inherits a very efficient and lean organization. I urge him to look at some of your past presentations in the archives, which give a very good overview of these various departments. He has some big shoes to fill, and he is going to inherit some very contentious issues of development and rate structuring. My best wishes that he is able to do so with the same competency that Mr. Lamb exhibited. I have a question on the implementation of SB 814. One of the considerations is when you do a drought restrictions with 500 gallons, $500 a day per unit fines, what happens if you restrict the majority of your users from using their capacity, and more of this capacity is shifted onto multifamily units? It's very difficult under the present system to have them cut back. A14 looks at excessive use. Well, an apartment owner has very little opportunity to conserve. He's not on a separate meter. Our usage factors right now are about 180, 185 gallons per day per unit, whereas a single-family dwelling is around 250 or less. Well, the average apartment occupancy is 2. That makes 90 gallons per day. A single-family dwelling is right now running well below 80. How do we tell single-family dwellings that they're using water excessively and apartment owners are not when they are? And how do we address usage factors after we restrict single-family dwellings? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Did you want to answer, Tom, the question about the lead and copper?
I'll have Ed, if that's okay, come on up and.
The lead and copper rule is a federal regulation, and it does require us to sample homes that were built prior to 1983 that have the danger of having lead solder used. We do not have any lead service lines in our district, which is good. We don't have that problem that they have back east. But according to the Department of Drinking Water, State Water Resources Control Board, they work with us on selecting which homes. So we have to choose homes, and then we get the customers to participate in it, and we actually give them the bottles they sample inside their home, and then we run the tests. The good news is that because of our water quality in Vallecitos, we've not had any of our samples since the rule was promulgated in 1991. We haven't had any that even come close to the action level. So we've been in compliance the whole time.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate that.
I got a question. I was in Home Depot over the weekend, and I saw they have free water testing kits there on a rack. Is that a come-on by somebody?
Selling you a filter.
Oh, that's what it is, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As I saw that, I went, well,
Yes, the
that's
company.
interesting.
Yeah, the free water test. Yeah, they're trying to
I
sell
read
you.
it pretty thoroughly, but I don't see, but once you send it to them, they're gonna send you a filter, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, let's go on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar will be voted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or member of the public requests that a particular item or items be removed from the consent calendar, in which case it will be considered separately under the action items. And before we have a motion, I do have one speaker for item 1.6. So can we, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar for everything but 1.6.
Second, but I have a question on 1.2.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. With your question?
Yeah, 1.2, I noticed, and I don't have a page number on this, so I apologize. It's on the warrant list, and it's starting on the top with safety clean systems. And if you go down a few, I think it's 1, 2, 3, fourth one down. It's showing customer service rep week ending 10/2/16 for $1,445. I guess a couple of fold question on it is that a pay period? What's that 14? And are we actively seeking someone new, or do we use the temporary service normally?
Only when there's a transition like happening now. So, no, we don't normally use a temp service.
So
But
did someone
Debbie and
leave
our,
us?
what's that?
Did we lose somebody? Did someone retire or leave, or?
Yeah, right now we have a retirement. Bonnie is retired, actually, she's been retired for a week now, so, yeah. And so this was transitional. John, did you want to add to that?
President Snella and members of the board. With the With the retirement, with Bonnie's retirement, we brought in a temp from, I believe it was Manpower, and to bring her up to speed so that when Bonnie left, we would have smooth transition for the next person coming up. And I believe it's a 2-week pay period. I believe
Okay,
that.
the normal pay period. And I guess my question is, we have our own HR department, so I'm gonna be saying, a temp agency costs us a lot more money. But with your own HR department, don't you not go out for temps, or I guess you do, but my question is, what's the theory here? What do we work with here?
The theory on that was to have that transition, to have somebody trained so that when the person who was retiring left, we had somebody who was up to speed.
Right,
so
but
we
when
would
she's
have-
trained, obviously, if she's good, we're gonna wanna hire her. How long does she stay temporary? It's through a temp agency, is it not?
Yes. Yes, the lady that we have right now is through a temp agency. We also have a position open now because we have a vacancy that we're going to fill, and in that interim period, until we fill that vacancy, we have the person from the temporary agency.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay, we'll get to item 1.6, the drought update, and I have a speaker, Mr. Hunsaker.
Mike Hunsaker, 115 Equestrian Court, just for the record. I got 2 billings recently for water. Previous month showed I was using 5 units of water, which sounded real great since I've got an acre of land and all that, but it seemed a little low. Now I got another bill which says it's 13. It seems rather high. Now I understand that with the new meters, of which I have one, there is a lot of data available on usage, and that I could potentially access this and determine whether or not I've got leaks online, or what other usage factors may be involved. Because there's a definite signature when you do irrigation, another signature when you flush a toilet, or washing machines. These can all be sorted out. So is this data now available? How do I access it? And considering the growing interest in conservation, it appears that single unit measurements are probably not accurate enough. It seems like we should start adding a decimal point. Maybe instead of 8, it should be 8.1 or 7.9. It's going to make a big difference in the future. And there's also the question of how often meters are read. There's a tendency to read every month or 2 months or even longer, then sort of make it averages, which produces big swings in your bills. Well, this can be increasingly important. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, can you maybe have somebody reach out to Mr. Hunsaker?
Yeah, I will.
You might have a leak or
Meters are read
something.
every month, and
Yeah.
if Mr. Hunsaker has the meter I think he does, we can get you reads 30 days back, and we just share that with you. I'll go ahead and set that up for you.
Quick question to staff on that is, do we round off to the nearest unit?
We truncate when we read. So the actual meters are reading to the hundredths of a cubic foot, but we truncate those 2 decimals and then the 3 digits, or 2 digits. So we're actually billing 100 cubic feet.
Is it possible with the system we have not to truncate? show the
Not the
exact
billing
usage?
system, but we can read, and Mr. Hunsaker, when we give him that read, he'll have it to the hundredth of a cubic feet. Or we can convert them to
The question is
gallons.
about people are trying to conserve, and I understand that.
Mhm.
If they can see exactly what they use sometimes, if there's a way of doing that, and I assume there isn't though.
Not
Or
through,
you do.
not through the regular billing, but they can always request a separate read, and we can get that information. Not on a continual basis, but anytime they request it, we can get them to the hundredth of a gallon, or of a cubic foot of.
Thank you.
Director Hernandez.
And the meter, the 30-day read that you were mentioning, does that, what does that graph look like? Does it look like by the hour, by the day, by the week? To be able to identify that, you know, for the first 3 days of the month, I'm steadily using this, and then I get a spike, then maybe you do have that leak. Can you give me an idea what that?
We can set them differently, but I think they default to every hour.
Oh,
So
okay.
they'll get a read every hour.
Yeah.
And what helps in that case, if, for that 13 units, Mr. Hunsaker might have had a leak, or, you know, we find people, oh, the irrigation was set too high, the spikes are higher.
Mhm.
So it's good information that we can
Okay,
graph and
you've
get.
answered it. By the hour, that's more than enough.
There's no other discussion on that. I'll entertain a motion to approve 1.6.
So move.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, motion passes
Do you need to do
unanimously.
1.2 as well?
No, we approved that one. He just
I
had a
see.
question.
That was just a question. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move right along to action items, and we'll have Jeff present us item 2.1, our general manager employment agreement.
It's, Mr. Chairman, it's with real pleasure that I present to the board the employment agreement with Mr. Pruitt for general manager. I believe the agreement reflects the terms and conditions that the board requested, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Any discussion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Welcome aboard.
He waited around,
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was nice meeting you.
We won't talk about you while you're gone. That's right.
Okay, let's go on to 2.3. And James, you want to come on up and, oh, Rob, okay.
You know, we don't see James very much these days. He must be too high up there.
That's good. That will absolutely make the meetings go much more quickly.
Oh!
Yeah, touche.
Well, thank you, President Snell and members of the board here. I'm in here to request approval of detachment of assessor parcel number 178-21018 from the Vallecitos Water District. The property owner, Ms. Ruth Haler, has requested this here. Basically, this is a very rare occasion. Detachments are rare as it is, but in this case, we actually have a property that splits between the Vallecitos Water District and the Vista Irrigation District. She has about 1.1 acres. About 0.7 of those are already in the Vista Irrigation District. She wants to detach the remaining 0.48 acres from Vallecitos and move that to the Vista Irrigation District. She hopes to develop, put a house on that property. This irrigation district does have facilities in the area where Vallecitos does not, so it does make sense for her to go ahead and move forward with the detachment, as VID can serve from the pipeline they have in Camino de las Lomas. So with that there, I'd like to ask our board to approve the detachment of the APN under the conditions listed in the staff report. I'd love to answer any questions the board has.
Good.
Explain to me, I'm reading 2.3 on page number again, sorry. On the background discussion recommendations, payment of water detachment fee of $11.83 per acre, it's $567, and then payment of detachment administration fee of $1,000. So if you just explain those charges and our inborn cost to create a $1,000 charge.
Sure, okay, so as in regards to the detachment administration fee, that's to cover the actual cost there for processing the detachment there. This is part of that right here, is bringing that item before the board there, getting the staff report together. That's also collecting the information from the property owner, processing the information such as the legal description, the title reports, And also, correspondence with the other agencies that are involved in it. In this case, it's the Vista Irrigation District.
Does that change? Let's say it was a 10-acre parcel, or 20, or 100. Does that administration fee go up?
Yeah, I do believe it does here. So the $1,000, I believe, is for everything under 10 acres.
I think that's right.
Mhm.
And the detachment fee?
Okay, so the detachment fee, and then Tom will probably want to jump in at some point. That's the actual cost here for.
It represents the debt out there, so in other words, we've built all these facilities, and because we have debt, not all of that, if a customer leaves, they got the benefit of all the infrastructure that we put in, but they didn't pay for it yet. So it's relatively nominal, small fee, but if we had zero debt, that fee would be zero.
Okay, my question is, in this case, they haven't received any benefit.
They're detaching, so they've been in the district and benefited from infrastructure that hasn't been paid for yet.
Even though they
Because it's
didn't have
debt.
infrastructure there.
It's on a per acre, so
Across
it's
the
like a
board.
postage stamp thing across the board. They could have, it's just like a ready-to-serve fee, or when you see on your tax bill, you've got a ready-to-serve, even if you don't have a meter on your property,
Mhm.
you've had it available, yeah. So,
Okay, thank you.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve item 2.3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
thanks, Rob.
Okay, moving on to item 2.4. Tom, you want to give us some background on the?
Yes,
per diem
both
consideration?
2.4 and 2.5 are just organizations and events that are not listed on our, I think it's ordinance 202, the approved organizations. So in order to receive a per diem payment, it just needs to be approved by the board. So we would need two separate motions, one for the Padre Dam tour, and then a separate motion for the independent interviews of the candidates by.
Question?
Legal question, Scott. People that attended and went to this thing, can they vote on it as well? Because they're voting on their own per diem expense.
Yeah, it's no different than the ordinance that you have that lists all of the various activities. It's just under the AB 1234 rules, it has to be board approved. And so even though you participate in it, it's one of those things that's not considered a conflict.
Okay, so 2.4 is okay for us to vote on?
Yes.
Did you have the same question?
No. Oh, I did. No, as a matter of fact, I did, yes. I was going to move the motion to approve 2.4. But you wanted it separately.
Correct, yeah, one for 2.4, one for
Yeah,
2.5.
2.4.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes
I
unanimously.
will recuse myself for the next one, is that correct?
You know, you don't have
You don't
to.
have to, yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to. This is an exception under the conflict of interest codes. It actually is in there.
Okay, you say so.
Any,
Move
entertain a
to
motion?
approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 2.5 as presented by staff. Any discussion?
Yes, that I would like to, I feel very strongly about this, so for the record, I'd like to read what I feel. First of all, according to the board policy, the board members who would appropriately have been the ones to do a private interview with the applicants would really have been, I believe, the board members who are on the Administrative and Personnel Committee, which is Jim Hernandez and I. However, as a chair, I would not and did not request such an option because interviewing and selecting a general manager is, to me, the most critical and far-reaching decision a board has to make, and it requires the full participation and mutual input of each and all board members in an equally shared manner. I believe any and all questions to and answers from the applicants should be heard by all of us at the same time and place. There should not be opportunities for individual board members to ask questions, glean information, or even influence an applicant unduly. I'm not saying that happened, that's just my feeling. The second reason is the only director who pursued a private interview with the applicants did so before the board's final interview with them. He had no new relevant revealing or critical insight to share with the board when he returned. His comment was actually very generic. They were all nice, they were all pleasant, and I believe either one of them would do a good job. Therefore, 3, to the best of my knowledge, I believe the board's decision and selection of our general manager, Glenn Pruitt, was made purely in closed session through interviews, questions, and conversations attended to and heard by all of us. And though the private interviews may have been reassuring for that director, they were unnecessary and of no benefit to the board's ultimate decision. So to pay per diem and/or expenses for them, which could total over $400+, I feel it's a misuse of ratepayers' money, and I cannot support it.
Any other comments? Director Martin?
Yeah, I have one. I'm just going to make this fairly simple. I've been through this process before. I made it abundantly clear to the board that I wanted to meet with the gentleman. There were no objections made at that time to me doing so by anyone. So by assuming you don't hear an objection, no one has a problem with it. And I know and I respect the director's thoughts on how she thinks about things. I think about them differently. It is the most important decision I think this board is going to be making, the new general manager. And I suggested, as a matter of fact, that everyone should, if they have the time, take the opportunity to do that. I did have the time, so I certainly did take the opportunity to do it. I'm not asking for expenses. I'm not asking for the breakfast and the mileage. Purely the time. One was on a Saturday, which is a work day for me, and one was on a Monday, which is a holiday work day for me as well. I worked both days, and I had to constrict my time to do it. But I thought it was very worthwhile to do it, and I announced to the board that I was doing this ahead of time with no objections.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that too before we vote is that I couldn't meet with them. I would have liked to, but just didn't have the time to. But I do remember and recall Director Martin being very mindful of kind of almost checking for consensus from the board before he did it. And I don't really remember too much concern by any of the members at that time. So I'm a bit
I
taken
would
aback
like
by
to
the concern now. But do we have a motion yet for this? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 No.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so I've got 1 no and 1 abstain and 3 yes. Motion passes 3-1-1. Okay, moving on to, where are we anyway? Let's go to 2.6.
2.6. Yeah, and for your information in your board packet, you've got the quarterly report, and it starts on, it's 2.6 of your, item 2.6 in your board packet. It's required that quarterly we report to you the investments of the district. John is available. If you'd like to hear an oral report, you have the report before you in the board packet.
I reviewed it and we're still getting 0.00001 interest.
It's actually better than it was last quarter.
It is, it was point.
So it's 0.0000011? No, but thank you. We understand the circumstances and with interest rates these days, so. But I don't need a presentation by John. Does anybody else?
Move to accept.
Second.
Just for information. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go on to reports. Item 3.1.
I have nothing to report today.
On a lighter note, we pass this out. Let's try this one. Next one. Or you don't have to, just hand them down there.
I didn't want to make them work, you know?
So, kind of just on a lighter side, I thought it'd be helpful. We're reaching the heights of the media barrage on the November 8th election and all the listed propositions. So I came across some information on the propositions, the 17 propositions that we have to look forward to. And notice who's paying for what. And you'll note on Prop 51, the bottom of page 1, there's $11 million from the building industry. So that proposition must have something to do with building schools. The Prop 52 is kind of an interesting one. That's got over $60 million has been paid to by the California Hospital Associations, because they get some federal monies through this process, and that's a very valuable thing for them, and they don't want to lose that. Moving on along, the extension of Prop 30 income tax increases, you've got, again, $56 million from the hospital associations and teachers that are coming in on that one. And then I thought Prop 61 at the bottom of the page was kind of interesting. There's almost 90 million, 87 million from the drug companies to try to defeat that one, so. And then, that's about it. I mean, then the other stuff's kind of small potato stuff, but it's gonna cost about, before this thing gets done, about $500 million just on the proposition. So that's, it's a pretty good chunk.
Did you happen to look at Prop A?
These were just the state initiatives. So I don't know. I didn't find any information on that, but these were the,
The half-cent sales tax, it doesn't say it anywhere, but
Yeah.
the half-cent sales tax.
For 40 years.
For 40 years.
For every-
oh, wait a minute, isn't that the,
Prop A.
Property.
That's probably.
okay. I thought there was a proposition the governor wanted to extend some taxes on there.
Did you want to talk about 53 or 51?
Oh, I think you're thinking about 55 for schools.
Yeah, extension of the Prop 30 income tax increases. Okay, that's what it was income tax.
No, I was just going to add that, 53 is, a no on 53 is supported by Aqua and just about every special district.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, it's kind of interesting to see who's spending the dough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Thank you, Jeff. That's pretty cool.
Thank you, Jeff. Director Evans, item 3.3, do you have anything from the water
We
authority?
have a meeting coming up Thursday, but I would like to share that Mark Muir is the new Board of Directors Chairman, Jim Madaffer is the Vice Chair, and Gary Croucher, the Secretary, and they took office at the last meeting. You'd asked earlier, and I'm sure you're very much aware, that the San Vicente Reservoir and the marina are now opened, and I guess on opening day, they were amazed at the size of the fish that were biting. I don't know if any of you have been out there, but everyone was just delighted with it. The Governor Brown just recently signed 2 Water Authority-sponsored bills. One is AB 2515, and the point of that was to align the triennial update of the state's water efficient landscape ordinance to tie in with the green building standard codes for the industry, so that they could work together and do a good job instead of double spending time and effort on it. The second is AB 33. This was by Assembly Member Quirk, I believe, and that was requires the Public Utility Commission to evaluate and analyze the potential for all types of long-duration bulk energy storage resources to help integrate renewable generation into the electrical grid. And this is very valuable because part of it is asking the legislative findings that pumped hydroelectric storage, if constructed in a sufficiently large scale, could meet the electric grid's need for the rapid ramping needed as we take over with renewable energy resources. And this is also what they're looking at the San Vicente Dam, as a way to possibly generate some revenue and cut down on energy costs for water. And they won an award, I forgot the paper, they just won, the San Diego County Water Authority received a top national award from the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies for its commitment to improving the region's water supply reliability. It's the Sustainable Water Utility Management Award, and the Water Authority has now received this organization's all top 3 awards. So they were very excited, and it's all about being forward-thinking and helping to provide sustainable water. And that's my report.
Thank you. Encina, any report, gentlemen? You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, the Policy and Finance Committee met on October 11th. We recommended authorization to the board to advertise a request for proposals for financial auditing services, and we also reviewed proposed EWA volunteer program and recommended that be moved down to the board as well.
And we had our capital meeting this morning and brought up the update on the improvements to the facility, and also made a recommendation to the board to approve a design contract to upgrade the electronic operation and maintenance manuals and collate everything. They've been doing this for 6 years now, and they're on the last phase, which is a culmination of Section 12, which is all of them. And it's apparently been working quite nicely. In fact, Mike, our general manager there, used that document to get himself familiar when he first became acquainted with Encina, and has used it along his entire career. So a pretty important manual. So that was approved for $99,000.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, we'll move on to items 3.5, Director's reports on travel, conferences, and seminars. We'll start to the left here with Director Evans and work our way down.
Yes, I was just at the COWA conference and really enjoyed the presentation by Kathleen Teagues on Aqua. I'd heard it before, but she does a beautiful job of putting it concisely in what they're doing and where they're going, and an amazing little organization. Glad they're behind us.
Director Ellisher?
I attended the same meeting and found the Aqua update very interesting. I also attended the San Diego North EDC meeting on October 13th and listened to two very good presentations, one from Solitude Manufacturing Company in Vista and the other from Dr. Elizabeth Freed on hiring ex-Navy SEALs.
Yeah, that wasn't
Very interesting.
I attended both those as well. It was good to see Kathleen again, and good to see her out and about at all the different chapters. And then I was really, the presentation on the Navy SEALs was intriguing, but we also got to see a presentation from the president of Solitude, which is a local business here in Vista that if you haven't kind of seen what they're doing as far as kind of moving light around in homes and even businesses, and they're doing stuff, you know, globally in China and elsewhere. It was quite impressive. So it was neat to see what they were doing to kind of bring natural sunlight into areas where there's not necessarily good lighting.
I attended the same two meetings, not to go over the same things, but I think the interesting thing about the first company, Solitude, was, I understand Jim has one in his house, but it was just showing another multinational company, another company in Vista that's doing business across the world. And they're the best at it, and they're doing a great job. They've been around for 25 years. Didn't know that. So I attended the San Diego North County EDC, as well as CAWA, which has been explained, as well as CSDA, California Special District Association, had its convention down here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I made it for 3 of those days. Again, the education that you derive, especially from CSDA, is just phenomenal. The ongoing education that board members get. Great thing to go to. They update us on, well, they constantly bring up Brown Act. So we're very well versed on the Brown Act, which helps Jeff out. And they've gone through a whole bunch of things, and I didn't bring my notes with me, so Jim, I'll let you go through a couple of them. Jim?
I attended the conference as well, and the one that I was really came out and struck me was the collaborative session. Different districts, we are collaborating, of course, with Old Behind and a couple of others, but not only that, but the collaboration with the cities and the other agencies, and it brings to mind one of the things that we haven't done in a while, and of course, we'll bring it up after the first of the year with our new manager and the new board or wherever it's at with the city, because I think there are some things that we could collaborate with them, what's the term? Because we want to, some of them, stormwater, I think we're gonna end up mandatory, because it's just too big for us, and the city doesn't want it, so I'm sure they're gonna want to have something done. So that'll be something I'll bring up after the first of the year, because it would be good to get back and sit down with the city and just let them know we're, at least I believe we're a willing partner to do some of these things. And I attended the others as well.
And I just tag on to that, and building codes. During that city meeting, we can bring up building codes and see how they can change their codes to help us out with less water use.
Right.
Because they're the ultimate land use authority.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that can be accomplished that might help us in our conservation efforts.
Okay, moving on to 4.1, director's comments or future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring up at this time? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Move, second.
Closed session.